I want to take a minute to discuss my own reaction to the vaccine, and I haven't been very public with this. I I live with several autoimmune disorders and epilepsy, and I had been in remission for about 3 years. It's all coming back. If you have any sort of pre-existing health condition or you are vulnerable, don't take it. And please don't give it to your kids. There's no reason to give them an experimental drug. If there was massive child mortality rates, maybe. But there's not. And we are making kids suffer so much.
Yeah, wasn't that just sad? You know, it's people like her. Sure, she got the job, but we need to be compassionate, and as one more person joining our cause to fight this, these tyrants need to be brought to justice. And guess what? It looks like it's happening. In fact, a date is set. I'll be more on that in a bit. But the liberal world order and all their World Economic Forum stooges, everything's falling apart for them, man. Everything. Boris the Johnson, the clown in the UK, looks like he's teetering on the edge, man. He's about to collapse, completely collapse. His cabinet is resigning. And he's lost support of his own side, so he's going down, down, down. Just a matter of when.
Your thoughts on the Prime Minister tonight? Should he stay or should he go?
Well, I can tell you that earlier on today, I went to the funeral of a very long-standing councillor in my constituency. Much loved, not just because of his work as a councillor and as a mayor, but also because of what he did in the community more broadly, and family and friends. And a lot of the talk was about his deep integrity and what that means to people in this country, not just in my constituency, but across the country. And I think that what's been very sad over the recent allegations about the former Deputy Chief Whip and other things that have happened over recent weeks, that I just don't think the Prime Minister any longer has not just my support, but he doesn't have, I don't think, the support of the party or indeed the country anymore. And I think for that reason, he should step down.
You're a vice chairman of the Conservative
Well, probably not after having said that, but yes.
All right. Well, let's see if you retain your position. You're not resigning as vice chair of the
Well, no.
Conservative
Look,
Party.
I think you have to resign. You have to resign because I can't serve under the Prime Minister. But I say that with regret because I think this government's done some great things. I think the Prime Minister's got a very strong legacy in a huge range of areas. But I just think that when you've lost trust of people, and the Prime Minister asked at the confidence vote to be given time to restore that trust. And I took that, as many others did in the party. But I think it's become clear, particularly after losing the support of two of his sort of closest cabinet colleagues, that I think the time has come for him to stand down.
So the clock is ticking on Pfizer. Your Gray's highest court has given Pfizer, I think it's a day or two, to disclose what's in the jab, to disclose everything, and to disclose if there's graphene oxide in it. They're subpoenaed, they have to go to court, and they have to provide this information. That's some pretty big news. And that's not even the biggest, but that's big. You're going to like this one. Naomi Wolf, she'll tell you all about it. Check this out.
So, a Uruguayan judge demands explanations regarding Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine, and this is Merco Press. And an Uruguayan judge has ruled, so this is a ruling, it's not just a rumor, that the national government and the laboratory Pfizer must disclose during a hearing this coming Wednesday, that's tomorrow, the exact components of the COVID-19 vaccine of that brand, which is widely used throughout the country of Uruguay. The Uruguayan government and the pharmaceutical company were given 48 hours by Judge Alejandro Requeri to submit detailed information on the anti-COVID vaccines while dealing with an injunction request to halt vaccination among children aged 5 and over, because in that country, they don't yet inject children under 5. We're one of the few barbaric countries that's trying to do that, which is nevertheless, as they point out, carried out voluntarily. And I'll just read this one more. As per the court's decision, the executive and the U.S. laboratory will have to, so this affects us because this is the same injection, will have to provide documentation on the composition of the graphene, of the composition of the vaccines. So this is really great, important news. Obviously, one reason it's important is that this is a judge saying, hold on, wait a minute, you're not going to inject children with this till we know it's safe, and maybe not even we're not going to move on injecting children till we know it's safe. And that's what you've been asking for a long time, an injunction. And so that's what's underway in Uruguay in their system. And the other reason it's very, very, very important is that it's extremely difficult to find out exactly what's in these injections. And as you know, I've been completely beside myself at the end of last week because the announcements from Borla and from Pfizer and from Moderna of the micrograms, the dosages of what's going into the injections that they're preparing to inject in 6-month-olds to 5-year-olds, and that they're already injecting in 5-year-olds to 17-year-olds, is varying from 3 micrograms to 25 micrograms to 10 micrograms up to 100 micrograms. You remember at the beginning of last week, Cameron checked, and I said, can that be real? And it was indeed 100 micrograms and 50 micrograms, which are toxic doses, not to mention the dilutions, which I've talked about, and the freezing versus not freezing. Danger. So this is a Uruguayan judge saying you have to show us what's in it, and you have 48 hours.
There's people like Reiner Fullmich, who, I totally respect, love the guy, but and others that say this, what's happening in Ukraine is part of the Great Reset. And he's partially right, but he's missing a very key point here. Okay, yes, the World Economic Forum, the liberal world order, did provoke this, right? They had their 400,000 troops that are right outside Donbass and lobbing shells, and they were about to go in, and Russia couldn't tolerate that, so they had no choice but to launch their special military operation. But here's the thing, right? The liberal world order thought that they would win. They had no idea they'd get their ass kicked. They really didn't. These Nazis, right, the neo-Nazis, the Ukrainian neo-Nazis, they were NATO's best. Although on paper they weren't NATO, they, for all intents and purposes, they're trained by NATO, armed to the teats by NATO, right? So they were the best trained, best equipped, best armed New World Order enforcers. And they got their asses handed to them. Well, here's what they thought they would win for sure, because Russia went in with only 250,000 troops. Ukraine had 750,000. So, by their logic, Russia would have to go in, 5-1 in order to beat them, because they're all dug in and what have you. Russia went in with 250,000. Instead of being overwhelming them with higher numbers, they were outnumbered 3-1 and still handed them their asses on a silver platter. Still kicked them. They smoked them, right? Russia's really good at war if you haven't figured that out, And they didn't plan that. they thought they would win, and they lost, kind of like Hillary Clinton. They're not very good at this stuff. I'm going to explain why in a second. You're going to like this. Yeah, another thing they didn't expect, okay, when they put their sanctions on Russia, they thought that, oh, the people in Russia would revolt because it'd be so much hardship. That ain't what happened. Putin's more popular now than he ever was, and the Russians, they can now see, that the West is insane. So they're backing Putin 100%. These people are nuts. You can't make deals with them. You can't talk to them. They're just insane. So, Putin's stronger than he's ever been. Another thing they didn't predict was that when they cut Russia off the SWIFT system, they lost all ability to track because, they can do that with their, one global banking system and the SWIFT. They could track all the money that was going everywhere. Now they can't. They were also not anticipating BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And I think now you can add to it Argentina, Indonesia. You can add to it, I think there's a few African countries that are joining on to it, and more joining all the time. And this is that asset-backed currency, that alternative banking system, that alternative to the United Nations even, is what they're going with this, right? Alternative everything. I'm going to more on that in a second, but here's why they're doing this. This is how stupid they really are, okay? They don't have like this all-seeing eye like they portray, like the eye from Lord of the Rings or whatever that sees all. They don't have that, right? That's fiction. They might portray that they do it, and sure they have it in a triangle, but that's just a diagram, man. It's picture. It's not real, right? That eye doesn't see you, but so they actually believe the Ukrainian propaganda. When Russia declared victory over Lugansk People's Republic, cleared them out from the Nazis, and they're still going strong, they were surprised. They thought Ukraine was actually winning, right? They're dumb. Here's a CIA analyst, and he's explaining all about it. He's saying that it's so politicized, the CIA and the intelligence agencies, that they do not give the news or any information that the higher ups, the Mickey Macs, right, the politicians, the New World Order stooges, don't want to hear. So they only give them information that confirms. And they're getting their information largely from Ukraine themselves. So they believe their own lies, man.
Yeah, that's the thing that people need to understand. I think Hollywood has done a good but terrible job of propagandizing the world about what the abilities of the U.S. government and its knowledge, and it's as if there is some centralized knowledge, and people, and only the best and the brightest rise to the top. They have this the all-seeing eye. It's like the eye from Lord of the Rings. It sees all, knows all. Boy, that's not the case. And I've always drawn the parallel with the CIA. People get into the CIA thinking they're going to be doing James Bond, Pierce Brosnan, Sean Connery. It's Dilbert. It is this pudgy bureaucrat that gets caught up with the mundane. So I still have friends in the community, and we converse from time to time. They're always careful not to divulge classified information, but they also can give me a sense of some of the atmospherics. And if early on in this conflict, the United States military at the very top, they were relying upon Ukraine to tell them what was going on. As far as, yes, we killed 10,000 Russians today. Okay, they'd write that down, and next thing you know, that's what they'd be reporting through intelligence channels. I mean, it's shocking when the Russians hit the base Yavoriv, which is in western Ukraine, which was a de facto NATO base, with that hypersonic missile. It set off alarm bells, panic throughout the Joint Staff, the top echelon of the U.S. military. They had no idea. They'd always, it was a theoretical concept to them. And at that time, they saw exactly how it operates. So coming back to Lysychansk, I think there was really the expectation that because it occupied a high ground, they were coming, they had to cross a river. So there were a lot of geographic features that made defending Lysychansk seem more easy to do than Severodonetsk. And yet, in a very short period, the Russians swept it, and the troops were fleeing to the west. So I think, honestly, the U.S. intelligence community has been so politicized that there is not a good grasp or someone articulating what's really going on. I'm sure they have the information available. I know that I would be doing a lot better job if I had access to the signals intelligence, so we'd know what the order of battle was. When we say order of battle, how many soldiers are running around, how many vehicles, how many tanks, where are they located, what's their strength, what are the lines of communication, how do they get resupplied, how do you bring gas up to the front, how do you get food, are they eating, are they not eating? So there are lots of nuances you can read into once you get into that level of detail. The problem within the intelligence community right now, both on the military side, Defense Intelligence Agency, and the civilian side, especially CIA, is that if you present information that does not fit with the political narrative you've seen as, quote, rocking the boat, nobody wants to rock the boat. They want to get promoted. So therefore, you keep silent. And I mean, I experienced this firsthand back in 1986 when I was the Honduran analyst. I was the only Honduran analyst during the Contra Wars in Central America. And I remember when we would write pieces based upon what was actually going on the ground, we were told, boy, they're not going to like that down at the White House. Well, I didn't view my job as trying to become popular with the White House. My job was to tell them what was going on. And what we have right now is a completely dysfunctional intelligence community in this country, and that's dangerous. They're really more concerned about shaping public opinion than they are in actually accomplishing, putting together solid information and informing the public about what's going on. There is that narrative, but you reach a point that you can't keep putting lipstick on the pig and telling them it's Marilyn Monroe, because the reality emerges. And that's the thing that's been frustrating me from the outset on this, that they keep saying, oh, the Ukrainians are doing this and the Ukrainians are doing that. And in this era of social media, where's the evidence? Because you can find ample evidence on social media on the Ukraine side of the bodies being buried that are, the horrific casualties going back. You don't see that on the Russian side. Now, they try to say, well, that's because Russia's a totalitarian society. And as I increasingly try to remind, at least Americans on my side of the pond, we got more political prisoners than Russia. So spare me that sanctimonious bullshit about America, the free, and Russia, the land of the authoritarian dictatorship. We flip-flopped. It's almost the exact opposite. So what we face now is we have not seen, since the start of the conflict on the 24th of February, we've not seen an armored unit of Ukrainian forces backed with infantry moving towards a particular objective, and Russian troops running with their hands in the air the opposite direction. Haven't seen it.
No.
Now,
No.
that to me is the tell that, all that Ukraine's got at this point is to hunker down in their foxholes, and they've got artillery and they're lobbing that, they're shooting some missiles, but they've yet to organize an offensive. And I know you said it yourself that you keep hearing them say that there's going to be a counteroffensive, and if you had a dollar for every time that they've said that, you would be a wealthy man. But we're not seeing that. So it's unfortunate that our military intelligence and our civilian intelligence have become so compromised that they're not able to sit down and actually tell a cold, hard truth that Russia, in spite of going in with 200,000, maybe 250,000 troops against 600,000. That is just the reverse of even conventional military strategy, which says that if you're an offensive force attacking the defensive force, you want at least a 3-to-1 advantage. 3-to-1. And in this case, the Russians, they go with a 1-to-3 advantage. I mean, it's remarkable. This when the history of this is written, what Russia has accomplished over these last 4 months, I think is going to it will be something that future war schools will teach, because nobody in history has done this. Well, implicit in your question is this assumption that there is a level of strategic thinking present at the upper echelons of both the military and political leadership of the United States. And I would simply assert that that's a false assumption. There is no strategic vision. Well, let me just try. So when I lived in Bethesda, Maryland, my next door neighbor was the largest defense lobbyist in Washington, D.C. And so about a month or so ago, I sent him a note. I said, boy, I'm sure hoping Raytheon's not one of your clients. And he goes, why? Because they are. I said, well, geez, you guys are really doing a great job of arming the Russians and funding the black market. And he goes, what are you talking about? And so I shared with him the information about all of the weapon systems that Raytheon was making that were winding their way up in the Russian hands, and then also on the black market. He had no idea. He was not feigning ignorance for my benefit. He literally had no idea that was going on. That shows you, again, the level of disconnect here, that you would think that people who are on the cutting edge of defense lobbyists in Washington, D.C. would know exactly what's going on the ground in the Ukraine. Not at all.
Well, it looks like November's gonna be an awesomely hot month. Not only do we got the elections in the States, we got Europe going to crack by then because the temperature changed. But most importantly of all, Russia says that in November they'll be ready to present their case for the Biolabs, which Hunter Biden, Barack Obama, Clinton Foundation, George Soros, Pfizer, Moderna, those crooks? Yeah, they're going to be on trial. Think they'll show up? I think they will, because of the way Russia's doing this. They're not, for one, they understand that the United Nations and the ICC is corrupt. They're not stupid. They know that. And they can't, you can't be the person, because it's all NATO that's involved in this, right? They're all got blood on their hands. You can't tell by the COVID crime against humanity, right? They're all in cahoots. But, so they know that. So you can't have, they're saying, judge also be the defendant, right? You can't have that. So what is Russia doing? Well, this is what BRICS is about. They are going for an international tribunal, just like Nuremberg, with friendly countries that don't have a bunch of blood on their hands, that if anything, that they were maybe fooled, bought into the COVID hoax, but are now seeing the light. All the BRICS countries, Russia's putting forward a call for an international tribunal to try crimes against humanity for the biolabs and all the chicanery and all the evil that happened in Ukraine. Oh, this is gonna be good, man.
Речь идет о создании международного трибунала с участием иностранных государств по типу Нюрнбергского трибунала, Токийского трибунала и с учетом опыта использования наших трибуналов Хабаровского, Киевского, Краснодарского, Ленинградского. Вот вместе, используя опыт и международных инстанций, и наш опыт, с привлечением заинтересованных государств, наших союзников, необходимо приступить к созданию военного трибунала по событиям в Донбассе.
So we got justice coming this November in many ways, right? And let's take stock of just what happened in the United States. You know, because I don't think a lot of people realize this. You know, yeah, we had the Roe versus Wade ruling, which is very important, right? It takes off the, the curse on the country. Canada is still under that curse, unfortunately, but the United States is clearing itself, But I think the most, and of course, the Second Amendment, right, the concealed carry everywhere, that's also really important. But I think the most important was the ruling against the Environmental Protection Agency. And it's not just because it replies to that, although that was important, right? It means that killed the Green New Deal, but it applies to the entire deep state. It sets a precedent, right? What is the deep state? It's the bureaucrats behind the scenes that really pull the strings. Well, after this ruling, turns out they can't do that anymore. That's big. Here's Greg Phillips. You gotta listen to this. This is how it is, and this is a game changer.
The most significant consequential ruling of maybe even my lifetime. For more than 100 years, Congress has ceded tough decisions to the executive branch. So the legislative branch ceding these tough decisions to the administrative branch, right, or to the executive. And what happens is you get all of these unelected bureaucrats. They have nobody to account to. The presidents, sometimes they get in there. They not really paying attention. They cede the decisions then to these departments. Next thing you know, you end up with mandation or mandated vaxes. You end up with crazy IRS rules. You end up with all manner of things that no one has ever really spend any time debating. And so the entire government, everything that we know about the deep state and everything we know about what I used to call the shadow government is really sort of embodied in all of these decisions here that people are making and there's nothing we can do about it. Well, now all of a sudden, West Virginia and a couple of big coal companies stepped in and to the EPA and said, you know what? You can't make laws. You can't force us to do this. And sure enough, the Supreme Court agreed with them. I believe the downstream impact of this is the beginning of the end of the deep state, forcing people in Congress that are accountable to us, at least in terms of, from election perspective, and presidents that are accountable to us. And take this power out of the hands of the deep state, take the power out of the hands of these people, and absolutely just give it back to the people, because that's what's going to fix America. I've never been more optimistic, I don't think, about a Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah, I gotta say, this one surprised me. Wasn't expecting this. I didn't buy into the whole Zim bonds and Iraqi dinars and, the currency evaluation stuff. Same as I don't really buy into the Nazara Jasara stuff. That might be true. I don't know. But as far as the currency reevaluation, looks like there's something to that, man. Yeah, like I said, I didn't expect this. But Zimbabwe, yeah, they're what is it? I think you need $1 trillion Zimbabwe dollars to buy a loaf of bread or something crazy like that. Guess what? They're going to gold, reevaluating their currency. Yeah, conspiracy theory no more, I guess. Check it out. Strange world we live in, man. Strange world.
In order to facilitate local trading in gold, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, that is RBZ, announced the entry of gold coins onto the market as a store of value on Monday. And we believe that gradually other African nations will also follow the similar path. Zimbabwe has experienced hyperinflation since 2007. Zimbabwe's annual inflation rate jumped to 192% in June, the highest level in over a year, as food cost more than tripled. The Zimbabwe dollar, Africa's worst performing currency this year after losing more than 2/3 of its value against the dollar, has sharply depreciated, driving up prices. You see, Zimbabwe is in the midst of an economic crisis marked by high inflation, a swift depreciation of the local currency, 90% of unemployment, and falling manufacturing production. And now Zimbabwe is using gold to hedge against inflation and hence reducing the dependence on the US dollars domestically. But the real question is, why is the Zimbabwean government turning to gold for domestic trading? Zimbabwean traders are already vying for a limited supply of US dollars that companies must acquire to continue offering specific goods and services. Thus, the government is striving to wean the domestic economy of its dependency on the US dollar so that the import of the foreign necessities can be paid for by the greenback, thereby facilitating an unhindered foreign trade. Make no mistake, the government has pegged its currency to gold for this precise reason. Nevertheless, gold is frequently regarded as an inflation hedge among the many asset classes. It essentially indicates that over the long run, gold has been able to produce inflation-beating returns. The government has therefore proposed the notion of adopting gold as a medium of exchange. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe's Monetary Policy Committee resolved to introduce gold coins into the market as an instrument that will enable investors to store value. Mangudia said, "The gold coins will be minted by Fidelity Gold Refineries Limited and will be sold to the public through normal banking channels." The committee noted that the increase in inflation was undermining consumer demand and confidence, and that, if not controlled, it would reverse the significant economic gains achieved over the past 2 years. The move has been well appreciated by the investors in the country. Batanai Matsika, the head of research for stockbroking firm Morgan & Company, said the gold coin was a welcome development in the market starved of investment options and will help investors hedge against inflation. Regarding the coin acting as a store value, it's a good step given that Zimbabwean dollar's value was being eroded. People were going after US dollar as a store of value. Mabande told Al Jazeera, "It is going to ease pressures on the US dollars, but demand for the US dollar will still be there," said one of the investors. Well, many other African countries will eventually follow a similar path, reducing their reliance on the US currency. For instance, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Angola, which are adjusted to inflation rates of 245%, 35%, and 24% respectively, could relieve their economies by pegging their currency to gold and thereby hedging inflation. Perhaps the era of dollar dominance in Africa would soon be decimated.
Now, I generally try to keep these with stuff that I can prove, facts. That's the journalist in me. But, sometimes you come across things that are just interesting and I want to share. Like is this absolutely true? The Book of Enoch's real, and, it's interesting stuff. The Khazarian origin of money and usury and the satanic money system that they've enslaved humanity with all these years, that is now is relevant, right? Because this is what's now crumbling right before our eyes. It's going to be a little bit painful as we go through it, but we will make it through. Is this what's really happening? You be the judge.
Greetings, loyal viewers. I am your host V, and today we will be speaking about the origin of the Khazarian mafia banking cartel. As many of you are aware, there is a single family that controls the majority of banking in the world today. This family, known as the Rothschild family, have single-handedly taken control of the world financial system, and enslaved world governments, kings, queens, and even you through the filthy practice of usury. Usury is the tactic of charging interest on loans and is banned in scripture by God Almighty for a reason. It is a vile practice that mires mankind in a swamp of debt and forces them to struggle in competition with their fellow man, turning the world God created into a mockery of the original intent. This is the reality of the fallen world we live in. A world ruled by demons and their offspring. To understand the truth, you must look outside canonical scripture to the Book of Enoch, which was removed by Vatican decree from the Bible because it gave too many clues to unlocking the lies that are used to control you, and are being used to enslave you this very moment. I am sure you are familiar with the folk adage, money is the root of all evil. Interestingly enough, this phrase carries profound truth in 7 simple words. The origin of money can be traced to the Archangel of Death, who among the Kharasian Masonic cult is called Azazel. Azazel is the leaders of the rebellious Watchers in the time preceding the flood. He taught men the art of warfare, of making swords, knives, shields, and coats of mail, and taught women the art of deception by ornamenting the body, dyeing the hair, and painting the face and the eyebrows, and also revealed to the people the secrets of witchcraft and corrupted their manners, leading them into wickedness and impurity. He was also responsible for the creation of money. Here we see the origin of all the evil in this world. To Azazel ascribe all sin. The name Rothschild is a pun. It is based on the inside joke that Cain is Azazel's child, or Wrath's child, as Azazel is also known as the Archangel of Wrath. Another fascinating fact is that the son of Satan, known as Mammon, Hebrew for money, is spoken of in the New Testament. In Matthew 6:24, Christ says, "You cannot serve God and Mammon." Christ was revealing that you cannot serve Cain and God. You cannot serve greed and expect to see the kingdom after death. Christ also said in Matthew 19:24, "Again I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God." Christ was not a big fan of money, evidenced by his throwing the money changers out of God's temple, because it is the main tool of corruption used by the Satanic Legion alliance that worships Azazel, as God the Father, as he is the root of the Khazarian Masonic bloodlines, that have used greed to control mankind for thousands of years. Know this, if you spend life seeking nothing but wealth and power, you will know the lake of sulfur when judgment comes. Life was never intended to be a great competition where men are pitted against men in a lifelong struggle to simply survive. The entire purpose of existence was to reconnect with the Creator, and instead was manipulated into becoming this ridiculous, clown world shit show that we call the modern world. What you believe is the American dream is nothing more than a lie, that will soon become the American nightmare as the final stages of the Khazarian Masonic plan to enslave man is finalized. You must wake up, and soon, or all your hard work in life will have been wasted. They will take everything you have earned, and if you complain, you will be killed. I know nobody likes to confront the reality of the situation, but it must be done or it will require divine intervention to stop, and as I mentioned many times previously, God has a heavy hand and can solve all the world's problems in just 3 seconds. I don't know about you, but I would rather fight now for my freedom than allow demonic beings and their insane, inbred offspring to force me to bow to Satan. God does not like cowards. Christ was a dangerous revolutionary, not a simpering weak fool. Be brave like Christ, or you will soon know where the folk term hell on earth originated from too.
Well, that's all I got for you today. I want to say thank you to my generous donors. That you truly are how I'm able to keep going with this. It takes about 20 hours to get all the clips, shoot the videos, edit them together, render the video, write it all up, and publish it everywhere. It's a very time-consuming process. It's not like every single clip I see, it makes it into the video. I only publish the important stuff, right? So, thank you for allowing me the ability to do this. I hope I'm providing value. So thank you. If you want to help me to keep doing this, here's the link, the address. It's /Son of Enos. Easy to remember. Can't forget it. Till next time, we are the news now. Peace.